Yo, earlier this week, what's going on, man? Have a good day.
You too.
All right, yo, earlier this week, Noriega, we all know Nori from CNN, Capone Noriega, but listen, he was talking pretty greasy, you know what I'm saying? If you don't know what greasy means, my guy Nori was talking pretty spicy about Beanie Sigel. That's right, Nori called out Beanie Sigel. He wants a versus with Beans. Is AP on the spot. You already know. Come, walk with me. Come on, let's take this walk. Let's go.
All black, still my color. Curry with the rubber. Whomever you think king, that's a quick shot at the niggas.
So is this versus gonna happen? You versus Beanie Sigel?
Beans is a great artist. He's a great lyricist, but I'm not sure if he has classics. Now if you take Jay-Z away from Beanie Sigel's career, he's PM Dawn. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
Nori definitely has those joints. Now, Nori had the club hits back in the early 2000s when he linked up with Pharrell after his second solo album. Let's just go back a little bit to the War Report with him and Capone, CNN, Capone and Noriega, which was a classic album. Then Nori came out with his solo album shortly thereafterwards called NORE. Then Nori came out with his second solo album, Melvin Flint the Hustler, which wasn't as good as his first solo effort, but it was still a formidable, solo album. One of my favorite songs on that album was Bloody Money, Blood Money Part 3. I thought that song was banging. So then after Nori came out with that album, he really started to go the more radio friendly route, and you can call it commercial friendly route, but he still kept his street edge. But Nori drifted away just a little bit from the street classics that made him more infamous and more famous. Nori basically was making music for the clubs and for the radio. So he linked with Pharrell from the Neptunes, just like everybody else was in 2000, 2001, 2003, the early 2000s, from about 2000 to 2005 for the club bangers. I mean, listen, Pharrell was responsible single-handedly for pretty much 80% of the club bangers that you would hear in the club and on the radio from 2000 to about 2004, 2005. So that's why Nori linked with Pharrell, and he had hits like Nothing. Then he had Grimy. He also has Super Thug, which was also on that NORE album too, which was produced by Pharrell, which was a banger too. That's one thing we can't front on Nori about. Nori does have those bigger records, those club records, than Beanie Sigel. I will give Nori that. If you don't remember, I hope you remember, I know I remember, Noriega did have a classic freestyle that he did for 10 to 15 minutes at a radio station that was pretty heavily circulated on the mixtape circuit back in 1996, 1997, where Nori was in the studio freestyling with DMX, I think it was Cannabis, and also I might be mistaken, Big Pun. I'm not sure if Pun was in that cypher, in that session right there, but I do know it was DMX and Cannabis that was in the studio at a radio station with Noriega, and that freestyle was classic. YouTube it. Beanie Sigel's features and his mixtapes alone are classics and can definitely beat Noriega alone in a versus without even touching his album material. And I know that's saying a lot, but some of the features that Beanie Sigel has been featured on, back in the day when he was popping and he was young and he was doing his thing and he first got put on and he was in the prime of his career. I mean, What We Do featuring Jay-Z and Freeway was probably one of the hottest songs that Bean was on. Classic song. Then Beans also had the Kiss Your Ass Goodbye remix from Chic Luch. That verse was classic. I remember the Public Enemy mixtape. That joint was flames. That was probably one of the best mixtapes to come out in the early 2000s. Beanie Sigel, Public Enemy. That was my favorite mixtape. It stayed in heavy rotation. Bean's album, The Truth, his first album, listen. So I do think ultimately this would be a pretty good versus right here. I know it sounds a little weird. It might sound like it wouldn't be as even because Noriega has definitely been not known to be a lyricist like Beans is, and no one is comparing them lyrically because there is no comparison. But material-wise, I do think that Nori's material and his hits that he's had along with the Capone and Noriega joints, matches up well, very well with the Beanie Sigel joint. So this would be a very interesting versus. Will we see it? I don't know, but hopefully we will. I'll keep y'all updated on if this versus will happen between Beanie Sigel, my man Beans, and Nori from Capone and Noriega.